Welcome to Bible Time. This is the Tuesday edition, and we are in the book of Psalms. And today we're looking at Psalm 62 and Psalm 63. Both of these, just like Psalm 61 that we looked at yesterday, both of these were written during the time when David was fleeing from Absalom. Absalom, his son, was wanting to do a takeover, wanting to kill his father, become king in his place. And so David had to flee from Jerusalem for his life, basically. And he wrote these Psalms during that time. If you want to read the account of what happened with Absalom trying to take over the kingdom, you can look at 2 Samuel chapters 15 through 18. But, when you look at this, you got to remember that we are told that in this world we're going to have tribulation, just like David is experiencing tribulation. And when David faced tribulation, he didn't look to anyone or anything else but God. Does that come through clearly in Psalm 62? He says, "For God alone my soul waits in silence. From him comes my salvation." Verse 2, "He alone is my rock and my salvation, my fortress. I shall not be greatly shaken." And again in verse 5, "For God alone, O my soul, wait in silence, for my hope is from him." And verse 6, "He only is my rock and my salvation, my fortress. I shall not be shaken." It's God and God alone. And God alone is enough for the difficulties that we face in this life. Back in May of 2005, I preached on a Sunday night. I preached from this psalm. I preached Psalm 62. And that week, we were anticipating a great family time because on Friday night of that week, my son Ben was to graduate from high school. And on Saturday, my son Bill was graduating from college. We were looking forward to a great family week. But on Friday morning, the Friday that Ben was graduating from high school, that Friday morning, I got the news that my mom had died, and died somewhat suddenly. She hadn't been real well, but I don't think we were expecting that she was going to die. So I got that news on the morning beginning what was to be a great family weekend. Now, they both graduated. We enjoyed that part of it, but it was tempered a bit by this bad news of losing my mom. And I was so glad I had this psalm in my mind when that happened that week, that I could look to God and find God to be my strength, my rock, my fortress, the one who could give me the strength for that week. And that's what he does. God and God alone is more than enough for us in the tribulations, the trials, the difficulties, the challenges that we face in this life. And Psalm 63 picks it up. He's still on the run from Absalom, and he's in the wilderness, as it says there in the title, a Psalm of David when he was in the wilderness of Judah. You ever get to go to Israel, you make sure you pay a visit to the wilderness of Judah. You'll find out it's not the place you want to be hanging out. And so, because of that, because of where he is, he uses that an analogy from the kind of the wilderness. It's kind of a desert area. He says in verse 1, "O God, you are my God. Earnestly I seek you. My soul thirsts for you. My flesh faints for you, as in a dry and weary land where there is no water." He's expressing his desire for God like thirst, like a thirst for water. But he's not thirsting for water. He's not thirsting for the blood of his enemies. He's not thirsting to be delivered out of the wilderness. No, he's thirsting after God. And this psalm, as you read Psalm 63, it expresses the overpowering, insatiable longing that is associated with true thirst. I mean, sometimes you and I, we might think we're thirsty, but we're probably not really. David, it's an overpowering desire to get water when you are this kind of thirsty. And by the way, when he says, "My soul thirsts for you," that's what it means to earnestly seek after God. And so that presents a great picture to us. But I just want to take you back to Psalm 62 and point out some things that we should say to ourselves in difficult times. Verses 5 through 7 tell us what to say to our souls. Verse 5 says, "For God alone, O my soul, wait in silence, for my hope is from him." You could say, "Hey, soul, be still. Be still. Don't get all worked up. Place your hope in God. And then verse 6, he only is my rock and my salvation, my fortress. I shall not be shaken. So be still and be sure. Put your confidence in God. And by the way, back in verse 2, he said, I shall not be greatly shaken. By the time he gets to verse 6, he's saying, I shall not be shaken. So he's dialed it back from, I'm not even going to be shaken, let alone greatly shaken. Because God is my rock, my salvation, my fortress. And then verse 7, on God rests my salvation and my glory, my mighty rock, my refuge is God. So talk to your soul. Say, be still, be sure, and be strong. Put your eyes on the Lord and look at all that you have in him. So that's what David said to his soul. And here's what he says to all of us. Verse 8, trust in him at all times, O people. Pour out your heart before him. God is a refuge for us. So what does he say to us? Be steadfast. Be steadfast. Trust in him at all times. Pour out your hearts to him. Unburden your heart before God. Find him to be your refuge. Good words. Good words for us to pay attention to on this Tuesday. I trust that it'll encourage you, and we'll see you back here tomorrow for more Bible time.